The Arcturus Military Academy floated in geosynchronous orbit above Kepler-9, a monument to interstellar cooperation that currently felt more like a prison to Maya Chen. She walked through the obsidian corridors alone, her worn boots echoing against crystalline floors designed for species with 3 times her mass. Every alien she passed towered over her 5'4" frame, their eyes tracking her movement with mixtures of curiosity, dismissal, and barely concealed contempt. Maya had been the Academy's only human student for 8 standard months. 8 months of whispered conversations that stopped when she entered rooms. 8 months of training simulations recalibrated to species she could never physically match. 8 months of proving herself in a galaxy that had already decided Earth's children were fragile evolutionary accidents. She reached her dormitory wing just as the second sun began its descent, casting violet shadows through the viewport. Her quarters were modest compared to the sprawling suites reserved for Threnodian nobility or Corthan military heirs. 1 room, 1 window, 1 narrow bed designed for a species that apparently never needed comfort. The door sealed behind her with a pneumatic hiss. Maya dropped her tactical pack onto the desk, wincing as her shoulder protested. Commander Vex had run them through zero-gravity combat drills for 6 straight hours. While her Corthan classmates had maneuvered through the training sphere like predatory fish, Maya had struggled against her own biology. Humans weren't built for space warfare. Everyone knew it. Everyone reminded her. A notification chimed on her datapad. Maya glanced at the screen, her jaw tightening as she read the message from the Academy's Administrative Council. Due to performance metrics falling below acceptable standards, Cadet Chen was hereby placed on academic probation. She had 4 weeks to demonstrate substantial improvement or face expulsion. Performance metrics. What a sterile way to describe systematic discrimination. Maya pulled off her training uniform and examined the bruises blooming across her ribs. During today's combat exercise, Zek'nor, a Corthan prince with silver scales and a superiority complex the size of a gas giant, had slammed her into the training wall 3 times. The instructors had called it enthusiastic sparring. Maya called it attempted murder with witnesses. She stepped into the sonic shower, letting the vibrations strip away sweat and frustration. The water fell differently here, following Kepler-9's 0.8 gravity in lazy arcs. Everything about this place reminded her she didn't belong. The chairs were too tall. The food dispensers offered nutrition optimized for metabolisms that processed heavy metals. Even the atmospheric mix skewed slightly off from Earth's standard, leaving her perpetually aware of every breath. But Maya hadn't traveled 400 light-years to quit. Her father's words echoed in her memory, spoken the day she'd left Earth. "You're not going there to fit in, Maya. You're going there to show them what humans can do when they stop apologizing for existing." Admiral David Chen had been dead for 3 years now, killed during the Scorpius incident that the Galactic Council still refused to discuss publicly. Maya had been 15 when the Wenfom report arrived, full of carefully worded condolences and convenient omissions. Her father had died heroically. His sacrifice had prevented a larger catastrophe. No further details were available due to security classifications. She'd stopped believing official reports that day. Maya dressed in her evening uniform and headed toward the commissary. The corridors hummed with activity as students from a dozen species moved between classes and recreational facilities. She caught fragments of conversation in languages her translation implants struggled to parse. The Threnodians communicated through bioluminescent patterns that flickered across their translucent skin. The Velkard preferred subsonic rumbles that she felt more than heard. The commissary occupied the Academy's central hub, a massive circular chamber with feeding stations arranged according to species-specific dietary requirements. Maya collected a tray of synthesized protein and vegetables engineered to approximate Earth cuisine. The results always fell somewhere between bland and actively disappointing. She found an empty table near the observation windows and ate in silence, watching Kepler-9 rotate beneath the station. The planet's 3 continents glowed with the lights of cities built by civilizations that had achieved faster than light travel while humanity was still painting caves. That's what the galaxy saw when they looked at Earth. A backwater system that had stumbled into interstellar politics barely a century ago, carried along by technological gifts from species that viewed humans as children playing with dangerous toys. Maya was halfway through her meal when Zek'nor arrived. The Corthan prince didn't walk so much as prowl, his silver scales catching the light like liquid mercury. He stood 7 feet tall, his digitigrade legs ending in talons that clicked against the floor. His entourage followed, 3 more Korthan nobles and a pair of Vaktar enforcers whose crystalline exoskeletons hummed with barely restrained aggression. They surrounded her table. Maya continued eating, her expression neutral. Years of diplomatic training had taught her that showing fear was the same as conceding defeat. Zek'nor leaned forward, his forked tongue tasting the air. "I see the Academy's charity case is still here. I assumed they'd sent you back to your little mud world after today's pathetic performance." "The day's not over yet," Maya replied, her tone pleasant. "Maybe they're waiting for you to finish your tantrum first." The Korthan's scales rippled, a physiological response indicating anger. His entourage shifted positions, blocking any casual view of their confrontation. The commissary was crowded enough that most students couldn't see what was happening, and those who did carefully looked away. "You think you're clever, human?" Zek'nor's voice dropped to a hiss. "Your species barely qualifies for sentience. You're soft. Weak. The only reason you're here is because the Council needed to pretend they care about diversity." Maya set down her fork with deliberate care. "Is there a point to this visit, or are you just practicing your villain monologue? Because I have to tell you, the delivery needs work. Maybe try adding some dramatic pauses." One of the Valkthar growled, a sound like grinding stone. "You dare mock a prince of the Korthan Dominion?" "I dare have dinner," Maya said. "You're the ones making it weird." Zek'nor's taloned hand slammed onto the table hard enough to crack the composite surface. "You will show respect, or I will teach you respect. Teaching requires intelligence," Maya observed. "You've demonstrated neither the patience nor the cognitive capacity. I'd say try again, but I doubt the results would improve." The Korthan's tail lashed behind him, smashing into a nearby chair. Several students glanced over, then quickly returned to their meals. No one wanted to get involved in disputes involving nobility. The Korthan Dominion controlled 17 systems and 3 major trade routes. Earth controlled 1 planet and a collection of struggling colonies that relied on Galactic Council protection to survive. The power dynamic was clear to everyone. Zek'nor's eyes narrowed to reptilian slits. "Tonight, training level 7. The zero-gravity combat sphere. Just you and me, human. No instructors. No witnesses. We'll see how clever your mouth is when I'm pulling out your teeth." "That's a creative way to ask for a rematch," Maya said. "Most people just send a calendar invite." "Only 200 hours, Zek'nor continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Don't make me come find you, because if I have to hunt you through this station, the beating will be substantially worse." The entourage departed, their footsteps receding into the commissary's ambient noise. Maya sat alone at her cracked table, her meal forgotten. Her hands trembled slightly, a physiological response she couldn't quite suppress. She flexed her fingers, forcing them steady. This was it. The confrontation she'd been anticipating since arriving at Arcturus. Zek'nor had been escalating for weeks, emboldened by the administration's refusal to discipline students from powerful families. He wanted to hurt her, possibly kill her, in a way that could be explained as a training accident. Maya could report the threat, file an official complaint, request protection, and be branded a coward who ran crying to authority figures instead of handling her own problems. Her already tenuous position at the Academy would become completely untenable. She stood, dumped her tray into the recycling chute, and walked toward her quarters with measured steps. She had 6 hours before the meeting. 6 hours to prepare for a fight she had virtually no chance of winning through conventional means. But Maya Chen hadn't survived 8 months at Arcturus by being conventional. Her quarters felt smaller than usual, the walls pressing in with claustrophobic intensity. Maya stripped off her uniform and stood before her locker, staring at the contents with clinical assessment. Standard issue training gear, a few personal items from Earth, her father's naval insignia, awarded posthumously for valor in the line of duty, and beneath everything, wrapped in thermal shielding and locked with biometric security, a small metallic case she'd smuggled aboard the station 8 months ago. Maya's hands moved through the unlocking sequence with practiced precision. The case opened with a soft hiss, revealing its contents: 3 identical neural interface chips, each no larger than a fingernail, gleaming with circuitry that didn't exist in any Galactic Council database. Experimental military technology developed by Earth's Special Operations Division, classified above top secret. Illegal under 17 different interstellar treaties. Her father's final gift. Maya had known about the chips for 5 years. hidden in a safety deposit box with instructions that wouldn't unlock until her 18th birthday. The accompanying message from Admiral Chen had been brief. These were built for soldiers facing impossible odds against superior forces. They enhance cognition, reflexes, and combat capability by overclocking the human nervous system. They're also unstable, potentially lethal, and absolutely forbidden. I pray you never need to use them, but if you do, know that I believe in you. Show them what humans can do. She'd brought all 3 chips to Arcturus, telling herself they were a last resort, a final option if things became truly desperate. Things had become desperate. Maya held 1 chip between her thumb and forefinger, examining it in the dim light. The technology was elegant in its brutality. It would interface with her brainstem and peripheral nervous system, dramatically accelerating neural processing speed. For approximately 30 minutes, she would think faster, move faster, perceive time differently. Her reaction times would drop below what most species considered physiologically possible. The side effects were less elegant. Severe neural fatigue, potential permanent damage to synaptic pathways, a 20% chance of catastrophic brain hemorrhage. But at least she'd have a chance. Maya inserted the chip into the dermal port behind her left ear, feeling it click into place with mechanical precision. The activation sequence required conscious intent, a safety feature preventing accidental engagement. She wouldn't trigger it until absolutely necessary. The rest of the preparation was mundane by comparison. She changed into flexible training gear designed for maximum mobility, secured her hair into a tight braid, ate a measured portion of high-energy rations to ensure optimal blood sugar levels, ran through breathing exercises to control her heart rate. At 21:50 hours, Maya left her quarters and headed toward training level 7. The lower levels of Arcturus Academy felt abandoned after dark, their corridors illuminated by emergency lighting that cast everything in shades of amber and shadow. Maya's footsteps echoed as she descended through maintenance access shafts designed for automated repair drones rather than students. The zero-gravity combat sphere occupied a massive chamber in the station's infrastructure core. Maya had trained here dozens of times, always under instructor supervision, always with safety protocols active. The sphere itself was a marvel of engineering, a perfect geodesic structure, 40 meters in diameter, its interior surface lined with impact-absorbing composite. Gravity generators could be adjusted from 0 to 3 times standard, creating training environments for any combat scenario. Tonight the chamber was dark except for the sphere's internal lighting, casting the structure in harsh white luminescence. Zek'nor waited inside, visible through the sphere's transparent sections. He'd removed his academy uniform in favor of combat armor that gleamed like polished mercury. His entourage stood outside the sphere, watching through the observation windows with expressions of anticipatory satisfaction. Maya approached the entry portal, keying in her access code. The hatch cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. She pulled herself inside, transitioning immediately to zero gravity. Her body moved through the familiar adjustments, orientation shifts, balance compensation, 3-dimensional spatial awareness. The sphere's surface was close enough to touch in any direction, creating an environment where up and down were meaningless concepts. Zek'nor floated at the sphere's center, his tail coiled around a handhold. "I thought you might not come. Humans are famous for their cowardice, and Korthons are famous for compensating," Maya replied, pulling herself toward him. "Is the armor really necessary? I'm unarmed and half your size, afraid I might hurt you." The prince's laugh was a wet, hissing sound. "The armor is for after I break you. I don't want your blood staining my scales." Thoughtful. They circled each other in the microgravity, predator and prey performing an ancient dance. Maya kept her breathing steady, her movements economical. She needed Zek'nor confident, aggressive, committed to overwhelming force. She needed him to make the first move. "Last chance to beg," Zek'nor offered. "Apologize for your disrespect. Admit your species is inferior. Maybe I'll only break one arm." Maya's response was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You first." The Korthon lunged. His speed was shocking even in zero gravity, talons extended, jaws opening to reveal rows of serrated teeth. Maya pushed off from a nearby handhold, twisting her body in a corkscrew rotation that carried her just beyond his reach. Zek'nor's momentum carried him past her, and he grabbed a wall strut to arrest his movement. "Fast for a human," he acknowledged. but not fast enough. He came at her again, and this time Maya didn't dodge. She triggered the neural interface chip. The universe exploded into crystalline clarity. Time didn't slow exactly. Maya's perception accelerated, her neural processing speed increasing by orders of magnitude. Zek'nor's lunge became a choreographed sequence she could analyze and counter with perfect precision. She saw the micro-adjustments in his muscle groups, predicted the angle of his attack, calculated 17 possible responses in the span between heartbeats. Maya chose number 4. She caught his outstretched arm using his own momentum to redirect his trajectory. Her body became a fulcrum, leverage and physics conspiring to send the much larger Korthan spinning toward the sphere's wall. He hit hard enough to crack the composite surface, his armor absorbing most of the impact. Zek'nor's eyes widened with genuine surprise. What? Maya was already moving, her enhanced reflexes turning her into something between human and predatory machine. She bounded off 3 different surfaces, building momentum, closing distance. Her knee connected with Zek'nor's solar plexus, the impact precisely calculated to bypass his armor's weak points. The Korthan wheezed, his superior physiology struggling to process what was happening. Impossible. Improbable. Maya corrected. There's a difference. She struck again. A palm heeled to his throat that would have crushed a human windpipe but only stunned the Korthan's redundant respiratory system. Zek'nor's tail whipped toward her, and Maya twisted beneath it, grabbing the appendage and pulling herself into close range. Here's what you're going to learn tonight, she said, her voice eerily calm. Humans don't apologize for existing. We improvise, we adapt, we win. Outside the sphere, Zek'nor's entourage had stopped celebrating. They pressed against the observation windows, their expressions shifting from confidence to confusion to dawning alarm. Maya released the tail and pushed off, creating distance. She needed to pace herself. The neural chip wouldn't last forever, and she could already feel the strain building behind her eyes. Zek'nor recovered faster than she'd hoped, his regenerative biology already compensating for her strikes. You're using enhancement technology. Illegal mods. I'll have you expelled for this. By all means, file a complaint, Maya said. I'm sure your father will be thrilled to learn his son needed to threaten expulsion after losing a fair fight to a human half his size. The prince roared, a sound that resonated through the sphere's structure. He abandoned technique in favor of pure aggression, launching himself at Maya with claws extended and jaws snapping. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. The moment Zek'nor stopped thinking and started reacting. Maya didn't try to dodge or counter. Instead, she did something completely unexpected. She grabbed him, her hands locked onto his armored shoulders, and she pulled herself into an embrace that was more wrestling hold than combat technique. Zek'nor's momentum carried them both toward the sphere's wall, spinning in zero gravity, locked together. What are you doing? The Korthan demanded, trying to shake her off. Maya's smile was terrible. Winning. They hit the wall together, but Maya had positioned their trajectory perfectly. Zek'nor's head cracked against the composite surface with precisely calculated force. Not enough to kill him through his armor, just enough to stun him completely. The Korthan went limp in her arms. Maya released him, watching as his unconscious body drifted in the microgravity. The fight had lasted less than 3 minutes. Her neural chip still had 27 minutes of operational capacity remaining, though she could feel her synapses beginning to fray at the edges. She looked toward the observation windows, where Zek'nor's entourage stared in absolute shock. Anyone else? She asked. Knowing they could hear her through the sphere's audio system, the aliens scattered. Maya pulled herself toward the exit hatch, her enhanced perception making every movement feel like swimming through molasses. She needed to get back to her quarters, deactivate the chip, and deal with whatever neural damage she'd just inflicted on herself. She was halfway to the hatch when the entire sphere's lighting changed from white to crimson. Emergency protocols. A voice boomed through the chamber, amplified and artificial. Combat sphere lockdown initiated. All participants remain in position. Security teams are en route. Maya's blood turned to ice. Someone had triggered the station's emergency response. Someone had been watching. And now she was trapped in a compromised position with illegal military technology active in her nervous system, standing over the unconscious body of a Korthan prince. This wasn't a disciplinary situation anymore. This was an international incident. The hatch sealed with a magnetic clang that sounded like a cell door closing. Maya floated in the center of the sphere, her mind racing through scenarios and coming up empty. There was no good explanation. No diplomatic solution. No way to talk her way out of this. Through the observation windows she could see armed security personnel flooding into the chamber, their weapons trained on her position, and behind them, moving with terrible purpose, was someone Maya recognized from Academy briefings. Grand Admiral Kortbils, Supreme Commander of the Korthan Dominion's military forces, Zek'nor's father. Maya's enhanced perception caught every detail of the Admiral's expression, the cold fury in his reptilian eyes, the set of his jaw, the way his talons flexed with barely restrained violence. She'd just assaulted the son of one of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy. In that moment, floating in a sealed combat sphere with nowhere to run and 25 minutes of illegal enhancement technology still flooding her nervous system, Maya Chen realized she might have made a catastrophic mistake. The neural chip pulsed behind her ear, feeding her enhanced awareness and perfect clarity about one simple truth. She was completely fucked. The security personnel established a perimeter outside the combat sphere with military precision. Maya counted 12 armed guards, each carrying weapons capable of stunning species significantly more durable than humans. Grand Admiral Korteval stood at the center of the formation, his silver scales darker than his son's, marked with ceremonial scars that denoted countless battles. The neural chip continued feeding Maya enhanced perception, turning the standoff into a tableau she could analyze in excruciating detail. Every guard's finger position on their weapon triggers, every micro-expression crossing the Admiral's face. The subtle way station security seemed uncertain. Glancing between the unconscious prince and their commanding officer, Maya's hands remained visible, palms open in the universal gesture of non-aggression. Her enhanced mind calculated escape scenarios and discarded them just as quickly. There was nowhere to run, no diplomatic immunity to invoke, no clever words that would make this situation anything other than what it appeared to be. The human cadet had attacked Korthan nobility. The consequences would be severe. The sphere's communication system crackled to life. Grand Admiral Korteval's voice was surprisingly measured, lacking the rage Maya had anticipated. Cadet Chen, you will deactivate whatever enhancement technology you're using and exit the sphere immediately. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Maya's jaw clenched. The neural chip couldn't be deactivated quickly. Powering it down required a careful sequence to prevent catastrophic neural feedback, but explaining that would mean admitting to possessing illegal military technology. She was trying to formulate a response when a new voice cut through the tension. Actually, Admiral, she's going to remain exactly where she is until I arrive. Maya recognized the speaker before her enhanced vision picked up the figure striding into the chamber. Commander Sarah Okoye, head of Earth's liaison office at Arcturus Academy. The commander was a compact woman in her 50s, her dark skin marked with the kind of scars that came from actual combat rather than ceremonial decoration. She moved with absolute confidence, flanked by two human security officers whose expressions suggested they were entirely unimpressed by the Korthan military presence. Grand Admiral Korteval's scales rippled. "This is a Korthan matter, Commander. Your cadet assaulted my son. Your son threatened mine," Okoye replied, her tone conversational. "Training Level 7's security systems record everything, Admiral, audio, visual, biometric data. Would you like me to play back the part where Prince Zek'nor explicitly threatened Cadet Chen with physical violence? Or perhaps the segment where he demanded she meet him in an unsupervised combat environment? I have the timestamps ready." The Admiral's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "My son was conducting sanctioned training at 2200 hours in a restricted facility without instructor supervision." Commander Okoye pulled a datapad from her jacket and began reading. "That violates Academy Regulations 4.7, 6.2 and the Korthan Dominion's own military protocol regarding engagement with species of significantly different mass classifications. Shall I continue?" Maya watched the exchange with growing confusion. Commander Okoye had arrived too quickly, had too much information prepared. This wasn't a spontaneous intervention. The commander had been monitoring the situation. Okoye continued, her voice hardening. "Here's what actually happened tonight, Admiral. Your son, upset about being outperformed by a human during sanctioned training exercises, threatened a fellow cadet with unsanctioned violence. He demanded she meet him in a combat environment specifically chosen to maximize his physical advantages. And when she defended herself successfully, your security teams locked down the facility to contain the evidence of his misconduct. My son is unconscious. Corteval stated. Your cadet used illegal enhancement technology. Prove it. Okoye's smile was razor-sharp. Run a medical scan. Test her blood. Examine her for prohibited modifications. I'll wait. Maya's enhanced mind caught the trap. Medical scans would detect the neural chip's interface port, but the chip itself was dying to be undetectable during active use. Its technology exceeded Galactic Council medical scanning capabilities. By the time it could be proven, the chip would be deactivated and removed, leaving only circumstantial evidence. But that didn't explain how Commander Okoye knew about the chip in the first place. The Admiral studied Okoye for a long moment. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted. You planned this. I planned for the safety of my cadets, Okoye corrected, which includes anticipating that students from certain backgrounds might attempt to settle perceived grievances through violence. Your son has a documented history. Admiral, 3 formal complaints at his previous academy, 2 suppressed assault charges, and a sealed juvenile record that required substantial political capital to keep buried. Corteval's tail lashed once, a sharp movement that made several security guards flinch. You dare investigate a prince of the Korthan Dominion. I dare protect Earth personnel under my authority, Okoye said, and I dare enforce Academy regulations equally, regardless of a student's political connections. Revolutionary concepts, I know. Maya floated in the sphere, watching as the power dynamic shifted. Commander Okoye wasn't just defending her. The commander was leveraging the situation, using Zek'nor's misconduct to establish precedent. This wasn't about one fight in a training sphere. This was about Earth's position within the Academy's political hierarchy. A medical team arrived, moving past the security perimeter to access the sphere. They entered carefully, securing Zek'nor's unconscious form and attaching diagnostic equipment. Maya remained motionless. As they worked, her enhanced perception tracking every scan and measurement. One of the medics, a Threnodian whose bioluminescent patterns flickered with concentration, addressed the Admiral. Prince Zek'nor has sustained a severe concussion and bruised respiratory tissue. No permanent damage. He'll recover fully within 2 standard days. And the human? Corteval demanded. The medic's patterns shifted, conveying something between confusion and respect. Elevated stress hormones consistent with combat, minor muscle strain. No enhancement technology detected in her bloodstream or tissue samples. The Threnodian paused. Her physiological readings are remarkable for baseline human, but within documented parameters for exceptional individuals. Maya nearly laughed. The neural chip's designers had thought of everything. Commander Okoye gestured toward the sphere. Maya Chen, you're cleared to exit. Medical will want to check you for injuries. Then you're confined to quarters pending formal review. The sphere's hatch unsealed. Maya pulled herself through, transitioning back to normal gravity with practiced ease. Her legs trembled slightly as she landed, the neural chip's enhancement beginning to fade. She had maybe 15 minutes before the technology deactivated completely. She needed to be alone when that happened. Grand Admiral Corteval blocked her path, his massive form radiating controlled menace. Maya stopped, meeting his gaze with as much composure as she could manage. Up close, the Admiral's scars told stories of violence that made tonight's fight look like a playground scuffle. You fight well for a human, he said quietly. My son underestimated you. That was his mistake. Maya's response was automatic. He won't make it again. Something flickered in the Admiral's eyes. Respect? Amusement? Maya's fading enhancement made reading his expression difficult. No, he agreed. He won't. Tell me, Cadet Chen. How did your father die? The question hit like a physical blow. Maya's carefully maintained composure cracked. The official report classified it as a training accident. Official reports often omit inconvenient details. Corteval observed. Admiral David Chen died preventing a Korthan military coup. He discovered that certain elements within my own forces were planning to assassinate the civilian government and seize control of the Dominion. Your father warned us, helped us stop it. He saved millions of Korthan lives, and his own government buried the truth to avoid embarrassing my species. The chamber went silent. Maya felt her world tilt on an axis she hadn't known existed. You're lying. I never lie. The Admiral's voice carried absolute conviction. Your father was a warrior and a diplomat. He understood that honor transcends species. My government awarded him the Talon of Valor posthumously. our highest military decoration. Earth's government refused to accept it because acknowledging the award would mean acknowledging what happened. Commander Okoye stepped forward, her expression confirming the truth. I served with your father, Maya. What the Admiral says is accurate. David Chen saved the Korthan Dominion from civil war, and the Galactic Council decided that secret was more important than his legacy. Maya's legs gave out. She caught herself against the sphere's exterior, her enhanced perception finally fading completely. Without the chip's support, exhaustion crashed over her like a physical wave. Why tell me this now? Kortval's expression softened imperceptibly. Because you remind me of him. Tonight my son threatened you with illegal violence. You could have reported him, used political channels, hidden behind bureaucracy. Instead, you met him on his terms and defeated him honorably. That's what your father would have done. The Admiral turned to his security team. This incident is closed. Prince Zek'nor violated Academy regulations and paid the appropriate price. There will be no formal charges against Cadet Chen. However, he looked back at Maya. My son will require a formal apology. Maya's spine straightened despite her exhaustion. Absolutely not. Kortval's laugh was sharp and genuine. From me, Cadet. Not you. Zek'nor threatened a fellow student and brought shame to our family. I will apologize to you personally in writing, and he will be disciplined according to Korthan military tradition, which, I assure you, is significantly more unpleasant than anything you did to him tonight. Commander Okoye placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. The Admiral and I have been coordinating for the past month. We knew Zek'nor was escalating toward violence. We let it play out to establish legal precedent. Every second of tonight was documented, witnessed, and admissible in any Galactic Council proceeding. Maya's exhausted mind struggled to process the implications. You used me as bait. We gave you the opportunity to defend yourself. Okoye corrected. And to demonstrate that humans belong at this academy not as charity cases, but as equals. The footage of tonight's fight is already circulating through encrypted channels. By morning, every military academy in the galaxy will know that a human cadet, unarmed and outmassed 3-1, defeated a Korthan prince in single combat. The political ramifications crystallized. This wasn't about one fight. This was about changing perceptions, proving that humans could compete, could win, could demand respect rather than beg for tolerance. Grand Admiral Kortval extended his hand, palm up in the Korthan gesture of respect between warriors. Your father would be proud, Cadet Chen. Maya stared at the offered hand, then at the Admiral's face, searching for deception and finding only sincerity. She placed her significantly smaller hand in his, feeling the rough texture of his scales. He saved my people. Kortval said quietly. The least I can do is ensure his daughter receives the recognition she deserves. Your probation is rescinded. Full scholarship. Effective immediately, and if any student or instructor at this academy gives you further trouble, they'll answer to me personally. The medical team wheeled Zek'nor past on a hovering stretcher. The prince was conscious now, his eyes flickering between his father and Maya. The shame in his expression was almost painful to witness. Kortval addressed his son with cold precision. You will apologize to Cadet Chen. You will accept your discipline without complaint. And you will learn the lesson she taught you tonight. Power without honor is worthless. Strength without discipline is weakness. Remember this, or I will personally ensure you never wear military colors again. Zek'nor's voice was hoarse. Yes, father. The stretcher continued past. Maya watched it go, feeling no triumph, no satisfaction. Just bone-deep exhaustion and a strange sense of completion. Commander Okoye guided her toward the exit. Medical, then quarters. You're excused from all training for the next 48 hours. Rest. Process. We'll debrief when you're ready. Maya nodded numbly, her body moving on autopilot. The corridors passed in a blur. Medical examination confirmed severe fatigue and recommended rest. Her quarters appeared around her like a sanctuary. She collapsed onto her narrow bed, still wearing her training gear. Behind her ear, the neural chip had fully deactivated, leaving only the faint ache of neural strain. She'd need to remove it tomorrow, hide it again, hope no one asked questions she couldn't answer. But tonight, Maya allowed herself to simply breathe. Her father had died a hero. Not in a training accident, not as a footnote in classified reports. He'd saved millions of lives, earned the respect of former enemies, and left a legacy that extended beyond death. She wasn't alone at Arcturus Academy anymore. She'd earned her place through combat, established precedent through victory, and gained allies she hadn't known existed. Maya Chen pulled her father's naval insignia from her locker, holding it in the dim light. The metal was cool against her palm, marked with scratches from battles she'd never know about. "I showed them, Dad," she whispered. "I showed them what humans can do." Outside her viewport, Kepler-9 continued its eternal rotation. The Academy hummed with life, its corridors filled with dozens of species from across the galaxy. Somewhere in those corridors, attitudes were shifting, perceptions were changing. A human had fought a Korthan prince and won, not through illegal technology or political maneuvering, but through skill, courage, and determination. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, investigations into tonight's events, questions about her capabilities, attention from students and faculty who'd previously dismissed her. But tomorrow could wait. Tonight, Maya Chen slept deeply for the first time in 8 months. Her father's insignia clutched against her chest, dreaming of a galaxy that was finally learning to respect Earth's children. The lesson had been hard, painful, and necessary, but it had been learned.